All right, everybody, just want to run by my thought process here. So Brian Alderledge made his 2.5 inches. I hate to copy, I hate to, do the exact same thing, but he had to make a special ingot mold to melt aluminum, and I don't want to have to do that. I want to be able to drop cans right in. So the can is 2.615, so basically 2 5/8. So what I'm going to do, and I just happened to find this, I'm going to cast mine with this in the flue. It's almost exactly 2 3/4 inch on the OD. I'm going to wrap some flashing around it so that I can get it out. And that'll give me clearance for cans. I'll be able to melt cans. And I am going to drill this right here in the drill press. I am going to put a 2 3/4 inch hole saw, and I'm not sure how I'm going to piece this together, but I'll try to make it as fluid as possible. As you can see, I've got all the stainless steel Allen head 1/4 20 screws. I believe they're 2 inches long. I've got them all drilled. Also, guys, heads up, before anybody else attempts to do this, you ought to know that if your drill bits aren't super sharp and you're not running at a slow speed and running some coolant, you can very easily work harden this material. And then once it's work hardened, it is a bitch to drill. So just a heads up, this actually worked really well. These guys are definitely not sponsoring me. This just happened to be laying in the garbage and I was able to pick it up, and it actually fits really nicely. I'm thinking probably just a piece of flashing around it, and then I'll be mixing some mortar. I know this thing isn't as clean as Brian Alderledge, or however you say his name, but I'm doing this to show you guys that you don't have to be as precise and super critical, and you're still going to end up with a functional piece at the end that you can use, and you can melt just about anything you want with it. I think I'm actually going to include a temperature probe in this thing, a high heat temperature probe, so that I can monitor the temperature of the furnace from the outside with an Arduino and a little LCD. Not exactly sure how I'm going to integrate that yet, but I'm gonna work on that as we go. I'm going to start working on the base next, and we'll just keep on going. Okay, somewhere you aren't going to like this, but I guesstimated. So I assume that Brian filled the base as deep as he filled the top. So if that's the case, then it would be 2 inches roughly. So I went off roughly about the same curve and put a mark inside my barrel. From there, I measured to the center line of the first band, which is where he put his inlet, which was 3.5 inches. Okay, so I'm marking my barrel 3.5 inches from the bottom, which will be sitting on the poured concrete. Okay, from there, I'm going to take a diameter measurement roundabout to that area and see what I'm getting. This is going to be a little bit tough because this thing's tapered. So, and I get roughly 10 inches. 10 inches in diameter at that spot. Okay? So, let me get a piece of paper and we'll start doing this math. Okay, so I told you guys I was going to cheat a little bit, and this is how I'm doing it. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to put this thing in the bridge port. I'm then going to use a center finder, a little cheapo one, that I will set up and I will show you guys how I did it. And then I'm going to offset half the width of a 5-gallon bucket minus half the width of the tool head. I gotta figure this out before I go giving you guys any hard numbers, but I'll put it together and then I'll give a little equation on a piece of paper and we'll go over it. Alright, I'm gonna try to do this, show you guys how I find the center of this thing. Hopefully nothing falls off. So I just took a piece of 2-inch PVC and I cut it off. I just had this laying around and that worked amazingly well. I'm actually really impressed at how well that worked. If you can look and see, the fit's tight. That's what it looks like on the inside of the keg. Sorry about all the dirt and the debris. I'll clean that up, but I mean that's essentially, that's it. And I'm going to use the piece that I hole sawed off of here as my template for the 5-gallon bucket once I get that inside there. And I did think about this after I did it, and I probably should have done the concrete in the bottom first and then set the 5-gallon bucket in there and drilled a small pilot hole and marked the bucket as to where the height was of the port. But I will do that once I get this thing filled. I'm gonna make marks 360 degrees around the inside of this, very similar to the small mark that is right there. That was my measurement mark whenever I did the original measuring for this hole, and I'm going to just actually, I think it's right there. You can't see it. This is a pain in the dick. But anyhow, so that's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go around, mark 360 degrees, 2 inches off that angle as best I can, and then that's what I'm going to use to fill it. I'm also going to take account as to how much of the mix I use for the lid, and then once I know how much I've used for the lid, then I can go back and I can use the exact same amount for the base and see how close that gets me. And then if I need to add some, I can add some. If I need to take some away, I can take some away. But I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for sticking with me. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to break this into a 4-part thing because I've already got, I think, almost an hour's worth of footage. This is the 3rd night I've worked on this thing. I only spend about 2 hours on it in the evenings. But this stainless material and the roundness of this thing make it such a pain in the ass to work with. You'll find that out. I don't have any idea how many of you are going to want to duplicate this experiment, or this project, I guess is what it is. But Brian makes it look really easy, and I can assure you that it is not that simple. This is incredibly time consuming. It is a very slow process, so anybody who's looking at getting into this, I'd probably recommend just making one out of a steel trash can or a steel 5-gallon pail and just wrapping it with that kale wool on the inside. So much faster. You'll have a product you can use right away, and you won't have any of this hassle. I'm only doing this because I want something permanent, something that I can use, and something that I can put a 10 kilogram crucible into, and I know that it'll heat it. I know the whole thing will stay well, and I know that it'll be insulated well enough that I'll be able to do some copper and so on and so forth. So that's it for tonight. I'm wrapping this thing up and I'm heading home, but I'll be pouring concrete tomorrow. So I'll see you guys then.